Hi, I'm Michael Valitutti, and I want to welcome you to my latest Gem Talk. And this is going to be a favorite talk of mine because I'm talking about a Canadian stone, actually. It's Ammolite. And Ammolite really only forms right here in Canada in the province of Alberta. But before I get to that, imagine owning a dinosaur. Now, literally, and I mean this literally, Ammolite is the fossilized shell of an ammonite. And ammonites we're all over the world, actually. We're going back 65 plus million years ago, around the time that amber was starting to form. And if you go to central Canada, it's very flat, right where Montana is, because actually Ammolite is actually found about 70 miles north of the Montana border on the Canadian side, the St. Mary River deposit, but we'll get to that. But it's very flat there. Why is it flat? That was actually the bottom of an ocean. Now we're going back. Ammonites really live, ammonites, about 150 million years ago, and they kind of went extinct with the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago. So it's flat because that was at the bottom of an ocean. So ammonites look like a nautilus. They're like that curly shell, and they lived in that part of the world and also in other places of the world in inland oceans. And what happens is that during the time of the cataclysm that caused the dinosaurs to go extinct, and all the earth was changing and everything was happening, they all died off and they sank to the bottom of what was then an ocean. And when the oceans dried up and went away, and you just had the fields, we call them the prairies now, they were buried. And only in this particular spot in the world did they fossilize, and they turned every single color of the rainbow, which I'm gonna show you. Now it's really quite incredible because you pick up dinosaur shells and dinosaur bones and all this from all over the globe, but only in the specific area on the planet did they turn literally every single color of the rainbow and turn into a gemstone. So when you own Ammolite, you are literally wearing a dinosaur. It's absolutely incredible. And despite popular opinion, Ammolites are not color treated in any way whatsoever. They're actually found in nature in the color that they are. Now, before we get to it, I want to show you exactly where it is. The Bearpaw Formation. Now, we're going to have this up on the screen later on, but about 70 miles north of the Montana border, you're looking at an area of the St. Mary River deposit. That's called the Bearpaw Formation. And along the banks of that river, for a very short span, I'd say for about a couple of miles, I actually did visit that mine, it's open pit mining on either side of the river. Now our company, for Gems on Vogue, we actually get our Ammolite from the south side of the river, and that's actually controlled by Native Canadians, and specifically it is the Blood Reserve. So that is the tribe that actually owns that land, and I actually got to visit their area. Now here is a photograph of that open pit mining. This mining can only occur in the months of May, June, July, and August. I visited there the last week of mining, which was mid-September, because the snow starts there sometime in October. It gets too cold to actually dig it out. And here I am. There's a big bulldozer, and they're actually digging out the Ammolite. Now, the mining is really quite incredible, and I'll tell you about it. It's unlike any other mining. First of all, it's open pit. So how do you get down to the pit? They have these big bulldozers, and they actually pick you up in the bucket, and they bring you down. Then another bulldozer comes and a backhoe, and it brings you down until you finally get down to the level that they're digging. And you see that gentleman there? He's called a spotter, and this is exactly how they mine it. Ammolite, when it fossilized, was surrounded by chalk. So there, the earth is very gray. It's very dark. I mean, you can't tell the Ammolite from the ground. It's impossible to distinguish it. So what they do, the backhoe digs about 1 inch every swipe. When they hit an Ammolite, remember what I told you that it's surrounded by chalk? You get a puff of smoke like this, and then the spotter will sit and wave, and they'll stop the backhoe, and then they get in there by hand and they start digging away, and they actually dig out the Ammolite by hand. And that is how they do it. And then what they do is, when the winter comes in, to prevent poaching, because this is one of the most remote areas of Canada, I mean, there's nobody living there, they actually have to take, because these pits are about 70 to 80 feet down, they actually dump at least 40 to 50 feet of dirt back into the pit to prevent poachers. Then in the springtime, they have to dig that up again. So it's really, it was the most incredible experience to see what they have to do to actually dig this out. Now, how do you take care of your Ammolite jewelry? I want you to take care of your Ammolite jewelry the same way that you would take care of a pearl or anything that's an organic. Organic means that it was once alive, just like a pearl was, okay, or coral was. So with that, you want to avoid harsh chemicals. So you know that jewelry cleaner that you often use to clean your diamond jewelry? You don't want to do that with Ammolite. Warm, soapy water. Now, the Ammolite, how is it found? It's found like this, like I showed you when I was there. They just wash it with water, and they'll get these nice big slabs, and they'll start to cut it. So that's basically the story of Ammolite. How much Ammolite is left? Well, the problem is these pits are getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Water is always a big problem. In mining, when I do my Mogok special, I'll talk to you about that. In mining, water is a friend and it's a foe all at the same time. You need it when you need it, but when you don't want it, you want to get rid of it. And the problem is as they go deep, they got these big pumps and they pump the water out. When they have like a wet summer with a lot of rain, it's impossible because the deeper they go, water just flows down that hill. And I was there, and it's just coming down that hill in the mud and all this. And it is the muddiest thing you've ever seen in your life to get Ammolite. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story. There I am. You see my shoes over there? Well, I had to, from the Ammolite mine, I had to drive back up to Calgary. And that took many hours of a drive. And then I go to the Calgary airport to fly back to Toronto. Well, my shoes were so caked with mud. That's the only time in my life that I was refused entry on an airplane. I'm not kidding you. So what was I going to do? I didn't want to go out and throw away my waterproof boots and to go get a new pair of shoes. And this is what I did. I had to go into the men's room and I was flushing my shoes in the toilet to cake off the mud. I mean, they were just caked with mud. They wouldn't let me on the plane. So I had to get it back on the plane to come back to Toronto with shoes that were literally soaking wet and my feet were wet and it was absolutely miserable. But that's what you got to do. I mean, my pants were covered in mud and all this, but that's the way mining is. It's very raw. You're digging these incredible things out of the earth. But can you imagine when you're there and they're digging away and you uncover a specimen like this and you just see its potential? That's the allure of gem mining. It's all this dark earth and it's a mess. But then when you discover your specimen, it's all worth it. This is why it's kept my interest for over 40 years. And if you invest in Ammolite, you're investing in prehistoric history. I think it's a very exciting stone. I think it's way underrated for what it is. And if you go to gemsonvogue.com, guess what? Our Ammolite prices are second to none. 3-year warranty, free shipping and handling. You can't go wrong. I pick up some Ammolite today.